Hey, John, welcome to the Kent Man Show. Thanks for coming on.
I'm happy to be here.
So, our friend Jake, the big baseball fan, he told me they used to be on the show. I'm like, John always been a fun guy to talk to. I know you more as a big football fan, a diehard Packer fan. I also know you like the Brewers too. So, what's your thought? Have you been watching the games?
Yeah, well, I just want to say one thing. I love Jake. I love our fair weather fan. Cheers for whichever team is winning. So he cheered for the Rangers, and then now the Orioles are doing well, so now he's cheering for them. Shout out to him for choosing all the winning teams. Well, some of us have been cheering for a team our whole lives. Yeah, shout out to you, Jake. um, but yeah, I mean, I would definitely say I love football a lot more like now and consume a lot more of that. But baseball really was my first love kind of growing up. I really kind of started watching, not watching, but like listening and uh, from a young age kind of loved playing baseball. My brothers both played baseball. They were both pitchers. And so getting to go watch them play high school kind of got me into baseball. And then that kind of then got me into following kind of professionally. And being in Wisconsin, I just picked up the Brewers team because that's what where we were around. And now the ironic part is that my dad is from Minnesota and was a Twins fan his whole life, and he tried to get me to be a Twins fan. And I refused. I kind of just like said, no, I'm going to be a Brewers fan.
I was gonna say, cause aren't you from like Black River Falls
Yep.
area where it's like northern? So you were more close to like Minneapolis. So
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I would
That's
think you would get more Quinn games up there than Brewer games because you're
yeah.
almost out of range.
It was definitely split in our hometown. Like there were a number of Twins fans and a number of Brewers fans because we are so close to kind of the border of Minnesota for that overlap. But by and large, still a lot of Brewers baseball, especially like growing up. I didn't grow up watching baseball, so I grew up listening to the radio and following in the paper,
Mhm.
following scores and things like that. So I grew up listening to Bob Uecker and following the game that way, which really kind of it makes it difficult for me to watch because just hearing Bob Uecker talk about baseball, sharing stories, like you just don't get that when you're watching it on TV. To just like it makes the game a lot more personal when you're to me when I'm listening to it on the radio as they're having a conversation, which it just makes it enjoyable. It makes it takes off some of the edge of like that kind of like instead of having that tension, it keeps you relaxed. I feel like when you're
Mhm.
watching it, even though growing up, like going into the eighth or the ninth inning, if the Brewers were losing, I would get frustrated, kind of shut off it and stop listening, and then I would turn on for the post game to see if they won or lost. And by and large, I mean, a lot of times they had lost when they were losing, but that off chance when they won growing up, turning on to hear the positive post game radio show was always fun.
I mean,
Um,
Bob Newker is a great broadcaster. It's hard not to listen to him.
yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of broadcasters out there, and there's also a crummy one too, like Joe Buck that I always hate listening to. Every year that he did the World Series, I had to put
yeah,
him on mute. But Bob Newker, I always enjoy his broadcasting, the way he does it, and yet he does do a personal cut, and it makes it better, but it also makes you enjoy the way he broadcasts and plus enjoying the game.
yeah,
Uh, So I understand what you're saying. You know, he's a great broadcaster, but also he was a fun player too, from what I hear.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
um, so what made you fall in love? I know you probably said your brother playing baseball. What made you love the game of baseball? Did your brother get you into it? Your dad? I know you said your dad was a Quinn fan. Um,
Yeah, so I mean, my brothers played, and then I kind of started playing, little league, and it was a joy for me with playing baseball, with getting we lived close enough where I could bike to practice. And then it was just something that all of us, like all of my friends and I got to do together, was play baseball together on a team, and just kind of do that. So that it was just like a fond memory of just getting to kind of do those things together, and to have fun. And all of us want to be the starting pitcher, and all of us be absolutely terrible at it.
And I would never good at it either.
Yeah, and me getting stuck out in the outfield because I was terrible. But I'd get to pitch on occasion because they did a rotation and stuff. But yeah, I think just getting to go and watch them, and then getting to kind of just play myself, and then I would just go out in my backyard and just like hit the ball around. I would work on my fly balls, like those. That was a lot of what I did kind of growing up outside, was kind of just work on some of those things, like some of the fundamentals of stuff. And then kind of as I grew older, like, you know, I'm a very competitive person. So like,
yeah, you are.
So
I definitely remember you.
Yeah. So as I grew older, I just I wasn't as good as everybody else. And so I kind of just sort of drifted away that way. I also broke my arm playing baseball sliding, and so that took me out for an entire season, when I was in middle school. And then kind of after that I just kind of gave it up, just because I was like, you know what, I like watching it, I like doing it, like playing together. Like one of our family traditions for a while growing up was we'd play a game of pickup baseball as a family on 4th of July with all the cousins.
That's pretty cool.
I would argue with my cousins because my cousins are big Yankees fans, and so we would always get in fights in the holidays whenever we'd get together. You know, we still talk crap to each other about how they like the Yankees and about how I cheer for the Brewers, and but it's all in good fun. So I think it's just a lot of things, like a lot of my childhood was kind of built around baseball. And so yeah,
that's pretty fun to hear. How did that work out for your cousin being a Yankee fan, you being Brewer fan, and I believe you said your dad was a Minnesota Twins fan? Did you guys all watch the game every now and then, or have crack talking?
Yeah, mainly just trash talking. Trash talking. I mean, when I'd go to my aunt's house, they would always say, "No, we have to put the Yankees game on." So I'd always be stuck watching the Yankees game with them when I went there, even though I was like, I want to watch the Brewers, because that was one of the few times where I could watch baseball games, was when I went to visit my aunt and stuff. So yeah, I never understood why we had to watch the Yankees. I was like, they're not from here. Like, why are we watching the Yankees? They're from New York.
Okay.
So, but
Yankee fan from Wisconsin, did we could do a Jeter or something, or A-Rod?
Yeah. My uncle, I think he traveled a lot, for work. So I think he just picked up on them when he was from that, and then my cousins just picked it up from him.
Okay, I mean, everybody had their own team. That at the end of the day, it's pretty much just entertainment.
Yeah,
come down to it. So, what would you say the Brewer fans are and Quinn fans by you? You know, they're diehard fans in your area, or they're kind of just lay back fans?
Yeah, I think it's really tough, because I think Twins fans, I mean, they're kind of, I wouldn't say that they're vocal and they're Twins fans. I think most people, for the Brewers, if you're from Wisconsin and you aren't a big baseball person, or you aren't even you don't follow other team, you still know of the Brewers. Mm-hmm. And so I think the bigger thing is there were a lot of people who were oh yeah, I'm a Brewers fan, but they don't follow baseball. But it's a Wisconsin team, so you have to support them because they're from Wisconsin, that type of thing. So finding people who are actually baseball fans, I think, is more of the challenge, because people enjoy baseball, or they'll cheer for the Brewers, but
Yeah.
like I always, and now that I live in Madison, like having conversations with people like about the Brewers, like I'll be out wearing a Brewers and they'll be like, oh, and they start up, and it's like I'm always trying to gauge their level of where they're at. Like
Yeah.
one of my coworkers, I mean, so we stopped and we were talking. I was like, I don't know how much you follow baseball. I was like, so I'm like, and he's like, yeah, I don't watch, but I like track stuff. I was like, okay. So then it was like we could have like try to gauge their level of where
Yeah.
I can have the conversation with them on the level of baseball, so I don't just like go right over their heads when I'm talking about things.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of Wisconsin fans, like you just said, they're Brewer fan because it's our Wisconsin state team. But a lot of Wisconsin sports fans probably lean toward the Packers more than the Brewers because their winning culture and all that stuff. Um, and the Brewers being a small market team, I'm sure hard, you know, with the up and down. But I would say the Brewers are actually getting better,
Yeah,
over the years. Before it used to be they were always going downhill after the All-Star game, and now it's starting to look like maybe postseason. I'm hoping not.
yeah,
Even though I picked Baltimore to go all the way this year.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
but I'm not against the Brewers being in the playoff. I would be more than happy for them to make the
yeah.
postseason.
Yeah, I think it's surprising right now that like they're in the position to potentially push for that number one seed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's actually really critical for them to have a chance, because I think if the Dodgers get the one seed, I think that'd be a really tough for them, just with how we've played the Dodgers this year, to have a chance at making it like to the World Series. I think going like having the Dodgers have that home field advantage
Yeah.
would be a challenge. And I think like it's crazy just to look at some of the series like with them between the Dodgers and them in the playoffs recently. That one was that 2019, I think, or 28? No, it was 2018 for the pennant to go to the World Series. I think that was a heartbreaking year. And so I think like having that home field advantage there, I think could be a big boost. I think Christian Yelich being out, like I think they're playing really well. They've kind of rallied with him being out, which is really good to see this year.
Yeah, I felt bad for them. I mean, because like they just got Devin Williams back,
Yeah,
and then not long after that, Christian Yelich gets injured, and it's like,
yeah,
what the
yeah.
heck?
But the other thing, and this is what I was talking about with with my coworker, was it's nice to see this year that we're winning off of offense, like not off of pitching alone. Like
Yeah,
I don't remember the last time, and I could be completely wrong, but it just feels like for so long it's like we have this great record, but our run differential is like negative, like 40, negative 60.
hmm
But this year to have like a significant positive run differential, just like it has a different feel to it, knowing that it's like, okay, when we get to the situation, like I feel confident that we can hit if needed. It's not a okay, we just got to get a lead and then just hold it and hope that we don't give it up. But feeling like okay, we can rally, we can come back. We've got the hitters to do that. So I think that just like gives me a different feel comparatively to previous years and previous hopes.
yeah. 'Cause if they can beat teams like the Dodgers and the Braves, then they should be okay.
Yeah,
But then again, the beauty of baseball, you just never know. You know.
yeah.
So speaking of that, how are your current feelings on the Brewers with where they're at and where they could be going? Are you
Yeah.
nervous, scared, or
I'm not.
holding
I'm
your
not
breath?
nervous.
Like,
I am impressed with how they looked a little rough, and then they've kind of smoothed it out. Like post All-Star break, there were a couple of losses to like sub 500 teams where I was like, you can't be losing these games. Like what is going on?
I know I was kind of like, waiting after the All-Star game, and like, okay, it can drop here, and then they'll try to prove me wrong. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, because especially because I was like, the Cardinals were sort of making a move at the after the All-Star break. I was like, please don't let this be where just like they start surging and we start dropping. Like I can't see this year after year. So it was good for them to kind of pick that up and kind of keep some momentum. I think it would be interesting, since they split the most recent series with the Dodgers, but then they had a good series versus the Braves. So I think it's all about like right now, like getting that consistency with some of the stuff, like not losing to those sub 500 teams, winning the winnable games, and just continuing to push. I think that I'd be surprised if they finished first in the NL, but I think that they could probably take second. Just with how the Central's playing, the rest of the teams, I think that they could pick up quite a few games to make the push for second, just since the other two divisions are a little bit more competitive. And so I think that could play in our favor for making a push for the first seed.
I mean, I'm actually happy for the Brewers. And he's actually breaking my curse right now with the St. Louis Cardinals, because I'm afraid to not pick the Cardinals in my bracket, because every time I go pick them, they make the postseason. So it's like, if I pick them, they'll be out. Yeah. Ever since that one year, I was in high school. This was a long time ago. I remember the whole roster was injured, and they still somehow made the postseason. Mm-hmm. And ever since then, I could never count the Cardinals out. Yeah. But now it's looking like there might be a possibility that they may be out. So it's like, yes, my curse is done.
Yeah, I think everybody in the Central is like hoping for their downfall, for their reign to end, so that way someone else can have it. Even though, like, the crazy thing is, even though the Brewers have been that, like, the team to beat the past 4 or 5 years, but like 4 or 5 years isn't the same as, the stretch of like 10 to 12, 15 years that the Cardinals had.
Yeah.
With a couple of blips there. I mean, the Cubs winning the World Series there, the Brewers kind of ticking up and being in there at some point. So, yeah.
I mean, the Brewers haven't won a World Series. They haven't been in a World Series since 1982.
Yeah.
But it'll be great to see a World Series in our lifetime, and see a World Series come in the state of Wisconsin for at least once in our life.
Yeah, and it's crazy because after Council left, I was like, wow, there goes our hope of it for a while. Like, and like, I really did not have high hopes for this season. Mm-hmm. Like with things, especially because I was like, they didn't bring any big pitching. Like, I feel like I've been saying for so long that what all the Brewers need is some help on the pitching side.
Yeah, me too.
Like an ace pitcher. Yeah. And then they could. That's what's going to get them over the hurdle. Well, it shows how much. That's why I'm not the GM, because they're doing pretty well. But like, it's nice to see that they didn't skip a beat with Council leaving, and it gives me hope that it's like, okay, we can still like make a run at it. It's about making that push.
So how do you feel about Pat Murphy being a manager and Ricky Weeks being the associate manager?
I mean, I love Ricky Weeks. Like that is my childhood right there. So like, to see people come back, like Ricky Weeks was my favorite player growing up, playing, like listening, watching, playing as the Brewers in MLB The Show. Like Ricky Weeks was my guy. So it's cool to see those full circle moments come back around. And it's good to see like that kind of the wanting to come back to an organization that you played for. Mm-hmm. I think that makes it really special to come back for somebody or a team that you played for, and to now manage it and kind of help build it up and help hopefully see what you hoped for and what you wanted, and being able to be be a World Series contending team. I mean, at the time when he was playing, like they were sort of building towards that, but they definitely weren't there.
Well, kind of sad because they had a lot of great players like Ryan Braun, Ricky, Prince Fielder, Corey Hart, all these guys that were just cool to watch.
Yeah.
And then they still couldn't do anything.
Yeah. Funny thing from that era, actually, my first jersey ever was a Ben Sheets jersey. So if anybody knows,
Ben Sheets, yes.
Yeah, if anybody knows that name, I don't know if anybody wants to say, like, really? It was a Ben Sheets? Like,
right? I remember Ben Sheets. He was one of my favorite players to watch.
Yeah. So that was my first jersey, followed by a Fielder and a Braun and then a Corey Hart. So like those are my, like, that was my era of like listening and watching and following, really kind of getting into following professional baseball. But yeah, so I can't be like, I'm honestly really impressed with what they've been able to do with switching, just because I feel like you lose somebody, you lose a manager, and it can go either way, like for that first season. Especially when you had a team that was competitive, that probably felt like they were right there, kind of. So I think you can tell that they're rallying around them.
Yeah, I haven't seen Ricky Wheat in post-game interview. I keep seeing Pat Murphy. Do you know if he's been talking or managing a little bit more? Like, I'm guessing with Pat Murphy's age, and it sounds like he just wants to manage, but also take some time off, like, or if he's just using Ricky Wheat as a way to mentor him, like, hey, if you want to manage.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not entirely sure on that one. I haven't seen like too much. I haven't been looking too much for kind of those post-game interview type things. So it's but yeah.
I mean, I was happy for him. At the same time, I was like, do you hire Pat Murphy as the manager, but then you hire Ricky Wheat as the associate manager? I'm like, so what now? We're replacing bench manager or bench coach with associate manager? Like, what's going on here, guys?
It's all these changing of the titles to make people feel a certain way.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was thinking. Like, wait, Ricky Wheat, the associate manager? I mean, doesn't want to be bench coach, but okay. I mean, yeah, Ricky Wheat was a good player, and I'm happy to see him. And it looked like he wants to be a manager, and we'll see what happened to him. You know, I hope the best for him. I hope the best for Milwaukee, and but even though Ricky Wheat played for the team, so he could probably coach him and show him what it looked like and work towards a winning culture, hopefully.
Yeah.
So who knows? I mean, it's interesting. So far, we're at the end of August and going in September, that we got one more month left.
Yeah.
Is there any other players that you like besides players on the Brewers that you enjoy watching? That it's like, oh man, it's hard to watch that guy, like Albert Pujols, but I appreciate the game he played.
Yeah. I mean, like, it was actually the person for me was Maldonado. Like growing up, it was like I never wanted to face that guy. Like, just some of those players where you're like I wish that we could like steal them away or something. Like,
so would he be one of the players that you would want to be on the Brewers?
Not anymore. But like it was definitely like I wish that we had like that. At least he wasn't on a team that we face regularly. But I'm trying to think of other players. I always loved Big Papi. Like, I don't know, I just love I think I had this weird love for the Red Sox growing up. because they were the arch nemesis to the Yankees, and since my
Yeah.
cousins like the Yankees, so like I used to know a lot about the Red Sox, oddly enough. Like so, I think Ortiz, like I always really liked Ramirez too with them as well. But yeah, they were kind of the more recently players. I don't know. I kind of like Mookie Betts. Like I really liked him again, a former Red Sox player. I think he's
playing for the Dodgers right
yeah, he's
now.
playing for the Dodgers now. I don't know if he's. I mean, again, I don't follow too many things outside of. I don't follow a lot of other teams outside of the Brewers, so I don't follow a lot of people too much. So I don't know if his hype has died down a little bit. I always wish the best for Mike Trout too. More recently, like I just feel bad for him because everybody always just hates on him for staying with the Angels.
Yeah.
But like I really respect him for sticking with the team that he wants to be with. I wish that was kind of like a lot more of the feeling. I wish there were a lot more players like that were like kind of like, no, I'm gonna stay here, and if I have success, like if we win, like great, but like this is the organization I want to be committed to versus I'm gonna chase and I'm gonna go join the super team so that way I can just win versus like doing the hard work of building up your teammates around you to make you into a contender and to make everybody better instead of just being like, well, I'm gonna join the rest of the best, all the highest paid, and we're gonna win because we're all the best and we were paid the most money. And it's like, well, I mean, I guess you could do that, but like where's the fun in the competition there? I guess like the joy of being a competitor instead of just wanting to be a winner.
Yeah, I'd grown to have, appreciated Mike Trout too for that too. And, it's tough now. He's injured again. He's been injured every year since 2017. But, I kind of, slowly turn over to Bryce Harper, but I still like Mike Trout.
Yeah.
Me and Jake used to always have that debate, who's better, Mike Trout or Bryce Harper, but
Yeah, I wouldn't take either of them.
Yeah.
At least not Bryce Harper. I don't like Bryce Harper, but that's just me.
Yeah, I know, but it's a fun debate,
Yeah.
So living down in the Madison area, like you said, do you get to go to Brewer games much, or?
Yeah, I mean,
growing up, have you done a lot of Brewer games? Like get to go to Miller Park with now Family Insurance?
Yeah.
American Family Insurance or something.
Yeah, so we kind of split. So we'd go catch Brewers Twins. My dad and I usually try to catch at least one Brewers Twins game a year.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't work out this year just with my busy schedule. We're going to some game. We haven't established which game we're going to this fall, but I'm really excited because it's going to be the first game that I get to take my son to kind of start building him in there. He's actually working. We've been working on throwing, but it looks like he's going to be a southpaw. So we'll see how that turns. Yeah, see how that turns out. Got to work on his fielding game a little bit. He kind of just lets the ball go past him. So, but I'm excited for that when we get to go kind of have that kind of 3-generation go to the game. And my dad over the years has slowly come over to the Brewers side. He wears his Brewers hat more than the Twins. Just because I've kind of sort of worn down on him with it. But yeah,
you got tired of the losing games on the Twins side.
He's tired of all the heartbreak.
Yeah, the heartbreak.
But yeah, but yeah, we kind of split our time between Milwaukee and going to the Twins for those games. Because I mean, the new stadium over in what is it, Target
Target Field.
It's a really great stadium over there. Like, I mean, it seems like there's not a bad seat in the house, not a bad view for watching the game, which I think is really I mean, some people might say, yeah, but I feel like that's hard a lot of times to do to make a stadium that way. But I really, really kind of like it over there. It's a
Yeah,
nice feel.
I haven't been in it. I walked past it and see the field, but
Yeah. Um, uh, but yeah, and then I usually try to catch a couple of games. So we'll get one this fall. And I know I went kind of late last year as well. Uh, so, but yeah, it's something that now that I'm closer, I do want to try and get it. But I'm one of those people, I like to go with people. So I'm not someone to just go on my own. I view it as kind of a social event to kind of go with people to watch. So that's usually the biggest thing, is finding people in a schedule and working out schedules to go watch. We'll see, and maybe see if I can talk some people into going and watching a playoff game here if it works out. So,
I mean, you got a minor league team down right below it. That, you know.
yeah, there's also the Mallards here. I haven't caught a game here for the Madison Mallards.
Yeah, that's a college summer league, but they're still fun to watch too.
Yeah.
You know, you're near a lot of baseball.
Yeah.
But, I know. I'm sure it's tough to get to now, being a dad of two and a husband and being in the military. And
I think that the toughest thing is the sleeping. Like, wanting, since most games are so late, like you have to try and find an afternoon game that really makes it work for a young kid, to make it so they're not miserable being up like 2 to 3 hours after their bedtime. So
hey, I hear them. You know, because like me working 2 to 10, a lot of times I just want to see like a little game. But it's kind of nice coming home to a baseball game at late at night. But at the same time, it's like I'm like so tired, and I know once I lay down on the couch, I'm just gonna like conk out.
Yeah.
So it's like I hear you on those late games, but you know, kind of tough to say, because I always say I like nighttime games more than daytime games. But you know, it now depends on on the schedule. Like,
it's the allure of the game under the lights. Like, that's just kind of like what you grew up like kind of when you thought of baseball, when you thought of things, you thought of like meaningful games late in the season, when it gets darker a lot earlier and you got the lights on. Because that was always, for me at least, when even playing Little League, you're like, when it got dark and then they had to turn the lights on, it just made it feel like a real baseball game.
Yeah.
So like that late game, it feels different. It's just like getting older and now having kids, your body, you're like, late games are not what I want. But yeah.
I know during the daytime it feels like a game just playing around, but at night it's like, oh, this is fun, you know. But it can be challenging to watch a late night game. But you know, because I remember a couple of years ago, me and my uncle, when I was visiting Chicago, we stayed up to watch Otani play, and it was like 10 o'clock at night. But we were so tired the next day. But you know what? We still had fun, you know. But you know, baseball brings people together. So
yeah,
you know, yeah, I hear you on the late night. It's tough. I struggle with it, but I've been trying to watch, you know, some more baseball games, especially now that we're in the second half of the season, when I get more excited about the games, because they're more closer to the end season. You know, the first half I always consider it like a playing around. Like they're just playing around, trying to figure each other out. Second half, take it more serious, and they are. Like today, I almost saw a no-hitter.
Yeah.
Toronto Blue Jays were 2 outs away from having a no-hitter, and then you know, lost it by a home run from the Angels. So it's like,
well, so funny thing, like with I don't know, like, did you grow up watching baseball movies?
Yeah.
So I recently rewatched Angels in the Outfield.
Yeah.
I was like, this is like, whoever, I don't know if they meant it this way, but whoever like wrote this script and like everything, like, I don't think they either didn't want to play to people's knowledge of baseball, or they didn't know baseball, because they the ending of the movie is keeping this pitcher in when you're on the line to win the pennant, and you're like, let's keep this guy in after he's thrown like 150 pitches. He's pitched a complete game, like all these. It's like this is not like I don't think this has ever been baseball. Like,
yeah, I hear you.
Like
I need to go back and rewatch it.
So it's just like it just kind of amused me there with that, like, and just like to hear now, like to hear that with a complete game, like, or a perfect game, like lost like that, like it is tough, you know, as people get better. I feel like I'm wondering if we're going into an age of like with all these older great pitchers, if they're kind of going to go away and we're going to be into a lot more like hitting league until we develop some more of those like aces, or if like some new ones will step up. Because like I feel like the last 25 years we've just been blessed with some amazing, just outstanding pitchers that it's just fun to watch them just be dominant in a way. And you get the onesies and twosies, but it felt like there were so many more of them, like even 10 years ago than there is today. But
would you say, I wouldn't say, would you say, do you like the new rule that they have in the game, like the extra runner on the base, second base, the pitch clock, you know?
I've come around to the
time that you two. Jake brought up on the show that you didn't like the DH rule.
Yes, that is the one thing I completely am against them getting rid of or adding the DH to the National League. I think that's an abomination to the history of baseball, and I will take that to my grave. I don't know. I think it was one of those things where it was just different. It just added in a layer of difference, and people are like, it was a worthless hit. It was a worthless this. And it was like, who cares? Like that it adds a different component to how you have to plan to play the game, comparatively. Like, so like being able to, it made you have to think about how you structure your lineup differently. Because you had a weak hitter, or then when you had a great hitter, like a great pitching hitter, like it was amazing. Like I remember the other thing is I remember my first game that I went to, my first Brewers game that I went to, and I was like, we were down, and I remember being like, we're going to hit a home run this next thing, and it's going to put us up. And my best friend didn't believe me. And then, I can't remember. We get up. I can't remember the odds or anything. I can't remember everything, but I remember being the pitcher that came up, and I think it was Yvonne Giardo. Do you remember him for the Brewers? I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. Yeah. And I was like, and then he hit a home run as the pitcher. And I remember just going nuts and like just couldn't believe it. That one, that I had said, we're going to hit a home run this inning. And that two, that it was the pitcher that hit it. And I just remember being like, just like completely blown away. And so I think that just is a cool thing, a cool aspect of baseball that's now lost, because people are wanting to optimize, to be like, oh, more offense, more this. It was like, who cares? Like it was just something that was cool, that was a fun aspect, that was different, and it just added a challenge and a layer to the game, that just, I think it just losing it just is kind of like, it's sad. You know, I think that it's the same way if maybe people feel that way about the like eliminating other things like the shift. Like people have strong views on the shift.
Yeah, there is some people that have.
When you can add in like a history and add in just different things to a game that's been around for well over 100 years, like, and just like point back to the history of it, and then to just be like, nope, this is the period where we just throw all of that out. And it's like, well, that's been part of the game. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm not too strong. Like, I think that you can make improvements. Like, I'm for the pitch clock. I don't know. I'm still out on the jury for the runaround second. Like, I think, you know, I think it's interesting because if you can get somebody that's like a good base stealer or a lot of different things, there's a lot you can do there to add in. But yeah, the DH, I'm definitely opposed to that being in the NL. I think it's just, yeah, the more that you can add in some of that history, add in some of those fun little quirks into the game. You know, it's the same reason that like having a live umpire versus a robot. Like, yes, you could call a strike, everything, but like even the hitter like doesn't always know. Like, so to like have some of those, to have that human element to the game.
Yeah.
And I feel like as you optimize and you perfect things, you slowly are pulling out all of the human elements that make the game what it is, to just make it this perfect thing of like the most optimized viewing experience. It's like people don't want, like, the viewing experience isn't what keeps people around, it's the love of the game. And it's like, so we need to foster that and foster the history and the things, foster the stories, the history. Like, that's what it makes me sad to think that the Cubs want to leave Wrigley Field, like, because I mean, I get it's old, but it's just like, it's a storied place that just so much baseball history is there. Like, so
I was thinking about that, but you know, I know the stock one, or White Sox one is thinking about leaving.
Yeah. So like, to hear the potential of just like history being lost, like, and to parts of the game, like, it's just like, these are all things that have built baseball into what it is, into a sport that people love and that we can enjoy. I mean, even like, and I get it, it's not Miller Park anymore. For me, it'll always be Miller Park, but like,
yeah, it would be Miller Park too.
But like the changes there, like, I would rather have a name change and keep that stadium and like have the funds to maintain it and upkeep it, than to be like, well, if you're not going to pay it, we're going to move, or we're going to build a new stadium. Like, and don't get me wrong, like the Target Field is an amazing stadium. So I'm not opposed to new stadiums, but I'm opposed to losing the history of baseball in the name of newness. Because sometimes, like, the old, like, we accept the new, and then we forget about the greatness of the old.
I 100% hear you, and you know, the whole DH thing, like you said, that doesn't make sense what you say. You know, you're losing a part of history. Before, like, I wasn't against it, but I wasn't, 100% for it. But I would say, because, the only part I would say I was like for it in a way, because you see a lot of these pitchers that can't hit. Very rarely some like the one you just mentioned. I know CC Sabathia hit a home run at Miller Park. I know Madison Bumgarner used to hit home runs when he was a pitcher for the San Francisco Giants. So there just wasn't that many pitchers that could actually hit. Like, hearing your point of view and having that little reminder. But also, I've been working on a video project of, baseball history, of putting all these Hall of Famers together and reading about the history of these guys who made the game and why they made the game and how they made it. Made me appreciate the sport and what they did and how they left it. And after hearing everything you said, like, that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and what's frustrating is that for the longest time, everybody said, well, it's a wasted thing. And pitchers need to focus on pitching, not hitting, and all this.
Yeah, I hear that.
But then you have Shohei Ohtani, like, come into the league and is the sensation as a fantastic pitcher and a fantastic hitter, and it's like, well, that just throws your argument out of the
changed everything now.
Because and like, I hope that maybe like him, like his circumstance, will help more pitchers, like, as they develop, want to be good hitters. Like, it probably won't.
He put up a statement on it because I want to say I don't know where the kid's from, but I know that a kid that just got drafted in the draft MLB draft this year. He's a two-way player, and I also want to believe that from a kid from the Milwaukee area somewhere who's a two-way hitter.
Yeah.
So Joe Connie definitely drove that platform like, hey, I can pitch, I can hit, I can run.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a dichotomy. Like I think, I think it's just developing. It's what was developed for so long, and so many people just kind of like the mentality of accepting that this is a worthless hit, or like, hey, work on this instead of working on this. And it's like, but the other aspect to me is like, maybe it is like, if we want to develop better pitchers, like what better way for them to develop as pitchers than to become good hitters? Because then if you know how to hit, then you know how, like, okay, this is what I need to do as a pitcher. Like it can be to your advantage, like to develop your pitchers as hitters, like because
then it might help them figure out how to strike out because you're
because I mean you can coach or you can find success just because you've done something, but it's a lot different when it's like, okay, I can see what's going on as that pitch is coming in, right? And this is my tendency, or like these other, and like to like understand that, like, and to be good at it, to then be like, all right, how would I beat myself? What would I do to beat me? And then it's all right, let me try that on some other people. Like, so I think it's like, I just don't think it needs to be a false dichotomy. So I wish that they would bring it back.
Maybe we will see it back in our lifetime because of players like Jocani,
Yeah, but I mean the other thing, and I hate to frame it this way, but as like baseball contracts are getting so heavy, like the cost for a baseball team is astronomically high.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just don't know if it's sustainable. And so I think you could potentially see a crash. And if you see a crash, like you may not be able to pay as many people, which means you might need to have like a two-way pitcher hitter, where it's like you can't just afford to be paying somebody to do that. And maybe that's a way for some of these more economical teams like traditionally like Oakland or something to develop their pitchers as hitters, to then be all right, we can save money this way by having a player go both ways.
I mean, I would say it's becoming more popular. Like, I don't know if you play MLB the show that often, but I remember a few years ago it was either you throw right or left, and you only pitch or you bat. Yes, they had pitchers batting, but there wasn't any two-way player. Now you play MLB the show, they're like, do you want to be a two-way player? You want to be a pitcher? You want to be a first base? What do you want to do?
Yeah.
So you have options. So I would say in my state that it's actually becoming popular and it's growing. And Jocani is the guy that started that.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, I know a lot of people would like to go back and say Babe Ruth, played and pitched, and he was a better pitcher than Thielen. But, Babe Ruth is from the dead ball era, and Jocani's playing now. So it's two different eras we're talking about here.
Yeah.
So it's like history may repeat itself. So who knows?
Yeah. On a side note, talking about Ohtani, I at some point want to make it over to Japan to watch some Japanese baseball.
Yeah.
Just because it'd just be so fun to like go and watch in a different country, to see to experience that in a stadium, especially a country that's like really excited about baseball, like Japan is.
Yeah. Hey, did you watch it? Did you watch any of the Japan game during COVID?
No, I didn't.
They had them on, and it was actually pretty neat. They went all out. Like, I think MLB to do some of that stuff. Like, they had a big band. They had people dancing on top of the dugout.
Yeah, I remember. I can't. What was his? It was the Brewers' first baseman a couple of years ago. I can't remember what his name was, but he played over in the Japan League, and then the Brewers signed him and brought him back over. And I remember just like reading and hearing him talk about his time over there. It just sounds like it's just kind of like a fun experience, like, and just the love of baseball over there, with just making the games like a super fun experience.
Yeah, I hear a lot of players like it that there's actually players that if they don't get signed anywhere, they would just go play in Japan. It's like, all right, well, I'll just go develop my talent in Japan and till someone signed me.
Yeah.
And I have heard nothing but good things from all players that played over there. They all loved it. They have nothing good, to say. I'm nothing bad to say about Japan and the baseball. And baseball in Japan is like a big culture, So, would you say if you were commissioner, that would be the one thing you would want to bring back to DH, or would there anything else that you would want
to? That's. Probably, if I was commissioner, I would push for the DH to come back. Trying to, or I guess to go back to how it was at the very least. If I could push it, like again, I want to say go back to as it was, because everybody. Otherwise, if I say push it across the whole league, then everyone would say, "Hold up, you were just talking about history." I'd be like, "You're right." So, I'm trying to think of anything else. I think I would. This is probably an unpopular opinion, but I would push for some form of salary cap and like minimum spending for teams, like in that way, to just try and push teams to be a little bit more competitive, to not have these teams that are kind of perpetually stuck at the bottom.
Yeah.
Because it's like if you want to develop like if you want to develop something more, you have to maintain competitive teams. Like just having teams that aren't doing much, like, or you're not bringing in, like, because it is in those communities, like those things, like that's where your fan base grows, is in the places where the teams are. And so when you have teams that aren't doing well, you don't have kids that want to go watch games. They don't have kids that want to play like these things. So if you want to grow baseball, it's like you need to make this league competitive, so that way you are having it where the Cardinals eventually aren't winning every year for 12 years straight. You aren't having like the same teams in over and over. I mean, at least I know people disagree about whether dynasties are good or not, and dynasties can be whatever. But to have your team like never be winning, or never have the chance really to think that you have hope for a World Series, it makes it tough to like to follow and be a fan, like, because that hope for winning is part of what makes the sport great, is that you have the chance to be the greatest.
But I do say, because a lot of people in baseball say, or like the team, like the Yankees, they brought the World Series. They buy all those players and they buy the World Series.
Yeah, I won't go so far to say it's buying the World Series, but like buying consistent success enough, like to be able to be competitive. Like a team may have a competitive year, but to have it where it's like you have a team this year that hasn't even hit 40 wins, or did they finally hit 40 wins?
Who
is it? Like, is it the White Sox?
Yeah, the White Sox. They're like last place in the country.
Yeah. I don't think they've hit 40 wins yet, or they just are over, just barely.
Yeah, they're not even 40. They're like 31 right now.
Yeah. So it's so to have that, like, you know, I mean, yeah, that would be my thing as a commissioner is how could I help make this game more competitive across the way to give every team a chance, like to build themselves up. And I know you've got your farm league. There's a lot of ways to build a team, but right now the best way currently is through money, and it just makes it tough.
Yeah, because otherwise you got these same teams that we almost all know that they make every year, like the Dodgers, the Braves, the Phillies, the Cardinals, the Yankees, Red Sox, and Houston Astros now.
Well, and it makes it so, like, if you are a fan, you have to, like, you want to follow it, because if it's like, oh, it's competitive, like, I need to keep an eye on what's going on versus, oh, well, my team's not, like, if your team's not winning, people tend to slowly tune out, because why do they want to keep tuning in for their team to lose?
Yeah.
But it's also the same for a team that's winning, is that a lot of fans, like, unless you're a diehard, is like, well, I don't need to tune in because I know they're going to win or I know what's going to happen. So I'll just wait until playoffs to tune in. Like, there's no reason to tune in during the season because you're like, it doesn't matter. Oh, you hit another, I'll watch the highlights. So I think just like it'd be all around better for baseball as a whole to engage people in the sport to make it more competitive.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. It's challenging. I would like to see more teams compete too. I'm more of an underdog. I like to see the teams that haven't won it or haven't won it in a long time. When I play MLB The Show, I always like to try and play a team that hadn't won the World Series and see if I can get them to go all the way. Build it. Even though I think I would be a terrible GM because I spend way too much money on my team.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get Mike Trout on my team, and like, we're going all the way.
The only other thing I would do as a GM is I would make Bobby Bonilla Day a league-wide day, not just the Mets Day.
Hey, did you know that the Brewers are still paying Ryan Braun?
It doesn't shock me.
$1.8 million every year until 2032.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy, but like
I had no idea about that until I was watching a YouTube at like he was talking about players that are still getting paid after retirement. And I'm like, Ryan Braun on that list? Like I know Bobby Villa, I knew. I was familiar with some of the other players, but I had no idea Ryan Braun was on that list.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's well deserved. Like that was somebody it's not that much. Like, and again, it's not like there's a salary cap where it matters.
Yeah.
So like, it's allows for you to kind of just keep kind of building, and to invest in somebody long term and just kind of feel like somebody who was beloved by an organization to like and help them win, help them be successful, help them re-emerge as a contender. Like I think that's well worth paying almost $2 million. I mean, maybe the owner doesn't see that way, like, but
I know some fans aren't happy. Like when I called my landlord there, he's like, "What? We're paying Ryan Braun $1.8 million?" And he was telling me, I don't like him because he cheated and he lied about, cheating, taking. I'm like,
yeah, but everybody says that. But you know what? Nobody's mad at Lance Armstrong.
Actually, there's a lot of people. I haven't heard of Lance Armstrong since
well, I mean, that's the thing. But he always said, everybody's doing it. It's just whether you get caught or not. And I don't want to fully believe that, but to some extent, I somewhat feel that that's true. Like everybody's trying to find some sort of that little edge, and pushing the boundaries, pushing the borders to make themselves that much better. Because I mean, it is highly competitive. Like to be playing at a professional level, you have competitive people who are looking for some way to get the edge on their opponents.
would there be, so let's say the season ends right now. Is there anyone that, I know you mentioned a guy earlier, would free agent coming on the rise? Would you say, is there anyone that you would want the Brewers to add, or,
Like, oh man, as a free agent,
yeah, or have, call up in the farm system?
I don't know. They've got a pitcher in AAA that I don't know if he's quite ready. I can't think of his name right off the top of my head, but I think like it'll be interesting to see when he gets called up. I think I'm like, ooh, maybe he could be the next, Skinner from the Pirates. Like if we could have somebody like that,
yeah,
like to come up. I'm just intrigued to see how Churio, how he continues to develop. So like right now as a free agent, like I don't think anybody specifically. I think it's just about like especially on the offensive and defensive. I feel like they have a pretty set. I think it's just working maybe on getting some of our pitchers healthy and maybe looking to add an arm. But I don't even know who's available for free agents after this year to like to keep. My more so thing is rather than bringing in free agents, I wish that they would invest in the guys that they have. Like I still think my biggest issue and gripe was how they treated Corbin Burns. Like through the arbitration process. I just wish that they wouldn't like nickel and dime their players. Like they would show that they're worth the money. Because then that's what makes people want to come back, like Ricky Weeks. So I hope they don't do that with with any of their players coming up for arbitration. I hope they don't like nickel and dime them. I hope they've learned their lesson to instead just be like, if we invest in this person, they may be willing to stay here for the less money compared to going out being paid more and going to a team that may not be as good of a culture and as good of a place. But like when you show people that you're like, you know what, we don't actually value as much as you thought we did. Like you're like, okay, then I'm gonna go somewhere else. Like, because who cares? And so I think that would probably be my biggest thing is rather than like even looking for a free agent, make your players, make them feel like they are valued by the organization.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying because the Brewers had some good players. Right, I remember when CC Abaxio was playing, and he was doing great, and the team was doing great. And then he signed with the Yankees, and it's like everybody was kind of sad about it. It's like, well, no offense, but he was kind of carrying the team on his back.
Yeah, he is
like, single-handedly carrying the team.
Yeah,
and it's like he probably would like to stay, but he can't carry the team on his own. It's like, hey, help me build a team with guys around me that want to win, and what cock,
Yeah, that's where I know a lot of people are kind of like with the Churio like contract, like being like, but I actually kind of like I was like, but I kind of support it now with the fact and hope that like they can build a team around him because they have him for the long term. So it's not like they're going to have to worry about like that piece going, like they can build around it. So I just hope that they continue to do that, and that hopefully the GM can be pushing to the owner, because sometimes it falls on the owner to say, hey, because I know the owner has at times said, I just want to be competitive to keep people interested. Like he doesn't necessarily want to invest the money to make the push for the World Series that may be necessary. Which I get. Like, I mean, it is like a lot. Sometimes you're losing money, but like at the same time, like, bring the potential. Like why not? Like, why do you only want to be somewhat competitive? Why don't you want to go all the way? Like, then to be the owner and be the one to bring a World Series championship home to a team that so deserves it, and a team and a fan base that so desperately want it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the Milwaukee Brewers' current net worth is like where they're at with money wise, I mean, yet they're not like the Dodgers who have multiple investors
Yeah.
who can, throw 700 million and be like, build us a winning team. So kind of, I agree with you that, the owner should show their money and be like, here's a blank check. What do you want?
Yeah.
What
Well,
would it take for you to stay?
and I think it's just sad because the Brewers are consistently one of the best, like, selling for tickets, like in across the MLB year in and year out.
Mhm.
So it's like why not reward the fan base? Like they have been consistent, they have been loyal, they continue to come out. Like why not reward them?
Yeah. I mean, there need to be a World Series in Wisconsin at some point.
Yeah, in my lifetime.
Yeah, there need to be. I mean, come on, they should just like.
I've gotten the Bucks, I've gotten the Packers. We're just waiting on the Brewers at this point.
Come on, we can do it.
Yeah.
Well, John, thanks for coming on the show. I think that's all my questions for now. And don't be shy. We'll have to do this again.
Yeah.
And I hope you do well with the newborn and everything goes well with you and your son at the baseball game.
Yeah, thanks, Max. It was a blast getting to talk some baseball.
I'll talk to you later.
Yeah.
See you later.